Breaking news from around your world on this Wednesday, November 28th, 2018. I'm Larry Rice. The Lion Air jetliner that crashed off Indonesia last month was not airworthy and should have been grounded. That's according to a preliminary report on the crash Wednesday. The report from Indonesian officials, based on information from the flight data recorder, indicated pilots experienced several problems with the aircraft in the days leading up to the October 29th crash, including a faulty airspeed sensor, altitude indicators, and angle of attack sensors that should have grounded the aircraft. Officials believe the bad sensor readings caused the plane to go nose down on one prior flight, which the pilot solved by switching off the autopilot. The Boeing 737 MAX 8 hit the ocean at 450 miles per hour, killing all 189 people on board. The black box data is consistent with the theory that a computerized system in the new generation plane, designed to prevent a stall by keeping the nose from getting too high, instead forced the nose too far down. The cockpit voice recorder has not been located on the seafloor, and the exact cause of the crash has yet to be determined. A deadly explosion in China's Hebei province has killed 23 people and injured 22 others at a factory zone. Beijing News reports the blast took place at a chemical plant early Wednesday morning. Most of the victims may have been truck drivers who were sleeping in their rigs or waiting to unload their deliveries in the heavily industrialized zone in northern China. The trucks were destroyed, and video images of the disaster scene showed charred trucks and burnt smaller vehicles. The state-owned Xinhua news agency reported the explosion occurred when a truck was delivering acetylene to an energy technology factory. Officials, however, said the cause remains unclear. China has been taking measures against industrial accidents since 2015, when a series of explosions in the city of Tianjin killed 165 people. Investigators at that time pointed out lax regulation and low management standards responsible for that deadly blast. At least 30 civilians were killed, along with 16 Taliban fighters, as Afghan government forces battled insurgents in southern Helmand province overnight. In the eastern part of the capital, Kabul, officials said Taliban insurgents staged a coordinated attack against security forces when a suicide bomber detonated his explosives, and fighters then engaged in a gun battle. The Helmand fighting came as Afghan President Ashraf Ghani was in Geneva attending a two-day UN-backed conference that ends Wednesday that is expected to focus on development, peace, and security in that war-battered country. Russia said Wednesday that it still expects President Vladimir Putin and President Donald Trump to meet as planned later this week in Argentina, where both leaders will be attending a G20 gathering. Trump told the Washington Post on Tuesday that he might cancel his talk with Putin over Russia's seizure of 3 Ukrainian naval ships over the weekend near Crimea, which Russia annexed from Ukraine in 2014. Trump told the Post on Tuesday, "Maybe I won't even have the meeting. I don't like that aggression. I don't want that aggression at all." Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said the meeting was still scheduled to take place and that Moscow had received no information from the U.S. indicating it would be scrapped. North and South Korea are discussing inviting Korean Americans to a family reunion to meet their separated family members in the North. Yonhap News reports Unification Minister Cho Myong-gyon discussed ways to make the reunion happen between Korean Americans in the United States and their separated family members in the North when he met a high-ranking official of the U.S. State Department in Washington, D.C. this month. Cho also said at a parliamentary audit last month that he formally requested the North to include Korean Americans in family reunions. North and South Korea held a family reunion in August for the first time since 2015. South Korean President Moon Jae-in and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un agreed to hold family reunions at their summit in April. The two Koreas agreed to make the family reunion more frequent as people separated from their family members during the 1950-53 Korean War are rapidly aging. More than 133,000 people have been registered as separated family members as of October 31st in the South, according to a government figure. 62% of them are 80 years of age or older. The United States on Wednesday indicted 2 Iranians for launching a major cyber attack using ransomware known as SamSam, and sanctioned 2 others for helping exchange the ransom payments from Bitcoin digital currency into rials. The 34-month-long hacking scheme wreaked havoc on hospitals, schools, companies, and government agencies, including the cities of Atlanta, Georgia, and Newark, New Jersey, causing more than $30 million in losses to victims and allowing the alleged hackers to collect more than $6 million in ransom payments. The deployment of the SamSam ransomware represented some of the highest-profile cyber attacks on U.S. soil, including one in 2016 that forced Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital in Los Angeles to turn away patients, and one last year that shut down Atlanta courts and much of its city government. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein said at a press conference that he remains confident the Iranian suspects will eventually be apprehended. President Trump and leading Republican lawmakers met at the White House to discuss a spending deal to beat a deadline to avert a partial government shutdown in 10 days. Trump wants $5 billion in funding for his promised wall on the Mexico border and said it could be a good time for a shutdown if he doesn't get it. House Republicans pushed approval for the $5 billion through a key committee, but the Senate's bipartisan bill includes just $1.6 billion for the border. House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy called the Tuesday meeting very productive. Republican Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith won Mississippi's runoff election, beating Democrat Mike Espy to become the first woman elected to the U.S. Senate from that state. Hyde-Smith received 54% of the vote to Espy's 46%. Espy, a former congressman and agriculture secretary, would have been Mississippi's first African-American senator since Reconstruction. Hyde-Smith was appointed to the seat by Governor Phil Bryant earlier this year after fellow Republican Senator Thad Cochran stepped down. Hyde-Smith faced intense scrutiny in the racially charged campaign, particularly after saying she would be willing to join a supporter if he invited her to a public hanging. President Trump endorsed Hyde-Smith and participated in 2 rallies for her on Monday. Hyde-Smith's win boosted the GOP's Senate majority to 53 to 47 for the Democrats. President Trump on Tuesday threatened to cut General Motors' government subsidies, including those for electric cars, due to the automaker's decision to close several North American plants and lay off thousands of workers. Very disappointed with General Motors and their CEO, Mary Barra, for closing plants in Ohio, Michigan, and Maryland, Trump tweeted. Nothing being closed in Mexico and China. The U.S. saved General Motors, and this is the thanks we get. GM shares fell by 3.5% after Trump's criticism. GM and its subsidiaries have received $76 million in government grants and tax credits so far this year, although the $7,500 plug-in tax credit goes to the consumer, not GM. Mexico's state oil company, Pemex, is set to add 1 billion barrels of oil equivalent to reserves after discovering a gas field that within 4 years will yield 80,000 barrels per day of condensates and 700 million cubic feet per day of natural gas to feed petrochemical units in South Mexico. The company said the discovery of the field in the state of Veracruz is the most important made in the inland portion in the last 25 years and the 4th biggest at a worldwide level in the last decade. The company said that the field, located 45 miles from the Veracruz port, was initially reported a year ago, but that it now knows after tests that it has a bigger extension and that its proven, possible, and probable, or 3P reserves reach 1 billion barrels. Pemex said production can begin as soon as 2022 because the field has the strategic advantage of being close to operating infrastructure, both in wells and in pipelines. The announcement comes amid criticism in recent months by Mexican President-elect Andrés Manuel López Obrador that Pemex had failed to make discoveries in recent years that could help stop a years-long decline in production. And that's your update for this Wednesday, November 28th, 2018. I'm Larry Rice. Thanks so much for listening and for supporting this podcast, and I hope you have a wonderful day.